chaotic 24 hours. Sharkey was known as an influencer, and she had a large following, and that put her murder and the search for her killer really in the national spotlight.
It did, and many pointed the finger at her husband, and that is who investigators tried to arrest last night, more than 1,000 miles away in Fort Myers, Florida. KPRC2's Sion Rhodes live with the story tonight, and Sion, that arrest did not go as planned.
She was born on a Monday. Cold skies, quiet town, the kind of day that felt unremarkable to most. But inside the small Pennsylvania hospital, a nurse whispered something to another. "That baby has star eyes." Alexis Lee Robinol didn't cry loudly at first. She just opened her eyes and stared, unblinking as if she already knew something the rest of them didn't. Her mother, Stacy, clutched her against her chest and cried instead. Not because the birth was hard, but because it felt like she was holding a future she couldn't yet explain, a storm wrapped in silk. The Robineaus were solid blue-collar people, church-going, loyal, middle-class. Her father, Michael, worked long hours in the local maintenance department. Her mother juggled the chaos of 3 daughters, Alexis being the first, while holding down administrative jobs and community work. Their world was built on consistency, small-town traditions, moral expectations, a home filled with laughter, discipline, and God. But Alexis didn't move through the world like the rest of them. Even as a toddler, she hated quiet. She wanted music, movement, eyes on her. Her favorite game wasn't peekaboo or tag. It was dress-up. She would dig through her mother's scarves, wrap them around herself, and parade through the living room like she was on a Paris runway. At 4 years old, she asked for her own mirror. At 5, she made her sisters clap for her as she told stories that had no end but were filled with so much sparkle no one cared. In school, she excelled effortlessly. Teachers wrote glowing comments about her curiosity and leadership. She was the kind of child who helped clean up before anyone asked, and then stayed to help others. But even more than her intelligence, what stood out was her ability to connect. She knew how to look at people, make them feel like they mattered. Friends were drawn to her not just because she was pretty, though she was, unmistakably, but because she could shift her energy like light through a prism. She could be gentle with shy girls, wild with the class clowns, mature with adults. She mirrored what people needed, and she loved the feeling of being needed. By the time she turned 12, Alexis had already begun to learn that beauty gave her something extra. Not just compliments, but access. Teachers paid more attention. Boys tripped over themselves. Older girls watched her with a strange mix of admiration and quiet envy. And Alexis noticed. She noticed everything, every gesture, every whispered opinion, every moment someone paused a little longer in her direction. When the family moved to Texas and later to Florida, Alexis adapted like wind in a new valley. Each time, she rebuilt her world. New friends, new favorite spots, new people to charm. At Fort Myers High School, she became one of the girls everyone knew. Not in a loud, cheerleader kind of way, but in that subtler, more magnetic way that made people ask, "Who is she?" She didn't just post on Facebook like the other girls. She curated. Her captions weren't random, they were polished. She studied the way celebrities phrased things, the way influencers shaped their online voice. She had a journal where she'd copy quotes, draft captions, sketch outfit ideas. Even before Instagram exploded, Alexis understood something that most girls her age didn't. You don't just have an identity, you build one. Her bedroom became a mini studio. She learned how to manipulate lighting using lamps and mirrors. She used cheap phone tripods and self-timers to capture poses that looked like they belonged in fashion magazines. She started following women 10 years older who sold beauty products online, and she watched them, studied how they pitched without sounding desperate, how they made their lives look expensive, even when they weren't. When she graduated high school, she was already operating like a brand, even if no one around her knew it yet. College came next. the University of Pittsburgh at Bradford. It wasn't glamorous, and the location wasn't ideal, but Alexis saw it as a stepping stone. She majored in biology, wanting to keep her parents proud, but her real obsession lived on her screen. She'd sit through lectures on genetics while secretly editing videos, drafting captions, mapping out her grid for the week. She tried YouTube briefly, but it was Instagram that lit her up. It gave her what she craved: immediate connection, validation, beauty, performance. Her dorm room was her lab, but not for science. It was for influence. In college, she began partnering with small online boutiques. Clothing brands sent her discount codes. She began tagging them. She didn't make much at first, maybe a free dress, a few dollars from affiliate links. But something bigger was forming beneath the surface: a following. Her posts went from dozens of likes to hundreds, then thousands. She started showing up on explore pages. People messaged her for skincare routines. She had fans, and the dopamine was intoxicating, but not everyone understood. Her boyfriend at the time, a quiet, soft-spoken engineering major, once told her, "You're so obsessed with the phone, I feel like I don't even exist sometimes." Alexis laughed it off, kissed his cheek, and told him he was just jealous of progress. She wasn't entirely wrong, but she also wasn't entirely right. She graduated with a biology degree she had no intention of using. Her classmates applied for research jobs and internships. Alexis packed her car with boxes, ring lights, and outfit racks, and drove west. She said she wanted to explore. "Do something different for a while," she told her mother. But the truth was more complex. She wasn't just chasing money. She was chasing visibility, not fame, significance. She wanted the world to know her, to admire her, yes, but also to believe her life meant something bigger than a small-town girl with good grades and a pretty face. She had ambition disguised as wanderlust, pain disguised as perfection, and that's what led her to Midland, Texas, a strange, dusty town known more for oil rigs than influencers. But it was there, at a local gym, hair up in a high ponytail, wearing black leggings and a rose-pink sports bra, that she caught someone's eye, a man named Tom Sharkey. And in that fleeting glance, a collision began. He noticed her before she noticed him. Tom Sharkey wasn't the kind of man you missed in a room. He carried himself with the confident aggression of someone used to being heard, thick arms inked with tattoos, sharp jaw, a permanent scowl that could soften into a grin when he wanted something. In the small-town gyms of Midland, Texas, he stood out, loud, intense, always surrounded by clanging weights and bravado. A man's man, but when he saw her, Alexis, alone near the stair climber, earbuds in, sweat glistening on her collarbones. He paused, just for a second, like a dog catching the scent of something rare. He made the first move. She laughed at something he said, probably too loud, too bold, but she didn't turn away. He offered a smoothie after the workout. She hesitated, then said yes. Their first conversation was an electric clash of two very different worlds. Tom talked about the oil fields, about West Texas heat, about nights drinking whiskey and blowing off steam after 12-hour shifts. Alexis talked about algorithms, affiliate codes, her dreams of expanding into skincare branding. She told him about her degree, downplayed her modeling gigs, made fun of her own selfies. He liked that she was smart. She liked that he was rugged. It was oil and champagne, and it burned fast. Within weeks they were inseparable. Alexis had a way of making chaos look romantic. She posted pictures of the two of them laughing in roadside diners, riding bikes down barren roads, kissing in golden hour light. Her captions were glowing, "My safe place." He makes me feel like fire and silk, but behind the screen things moved too quickly. Tom was older, 11 years older, and emotionally intense. He wanted all of her, all the time. He didn't understand the influencer world and didn't pretend to. He mocked it playfully at first, called her Instagram girl with a smirk. But when her phone buzzed one too many times during dinner, the smirk vanished. "Can you just be here for one night?" he snapped once, slamming his drink down. Alexis brushed it off, but a seed was planted. He proposed 6 months in. No ring, just a sudden raw declaration one night after a fight. "I can't lose you," he said. "You're mine. Let's lock this in." She hesitated. Her gut said slow down. But another part of her, the part that loved the fairy tale, the performance, the intensity, said yes. They married in a small courthouse ceremony in 2019. No elaborate white dress, no bridal party, just a fast signature and a photo she would later post with the caption, "Forever starts here." But forever started to hurt. Almost immediately things changed. Tom's intensity morphed into possession. He wanted to know where she was at all times. If she posted a photo in a crop top, he made passive-aggressive comments. If she went out without him, he accused her of flirting. He began calling during brand meetings, interrupting her live streams, showing up at shoots unannounced. When she landed a deal with a rising wellness brand, he told her she was turning into one of those fake bitches. They argued often, but she never posted about it. She couldn't. Her online persona was polished, intentional. She was the girl with the perfect skin, perfect hair, perfect life. She gave skincare advice, morning routine tips, motivation to women in her DMs. She was supposed to be glowing. She couldn't say she was shrinking. But in private messages to her closest friends, cracks began to show. "He gets so angry sometimes, it scares me. I'm trying to make this work, but he's different lately. I think he punched the bathroom door last night, just the door, but still, I don't know if I can do this much longer." She tried to leave once, packed a bag, called a friend, drove to her place in tears. But Tom followed. He showed up crying, begged her to come home. Told her he would change, that he'd start therapy, that he just loved her too hard. She believed him. Or maybe she just wanted to, because part of her loved being chosen so fiercely, and part of her was afraid of what he'd do if she stopped choosing him. By early 2020, Alexis's career was climbing. Her following passed 20,000. Her content got sleeker. She was hosting giveaways, collaborating with fitness influencers, flying to LA for shoots. She talked about building a skincare line. She even hinted at writing a book. But the more she shined, the darker things got at home. Tom quit one of his oil gigs and began staying home more. He drank during the day, picked fights about money, about her friends, about her time. He once accused her of acting like she's too good for this life now. She started sleeping over at friends' houses again, but always came back, always gave him another chance. Then came the summer. Alexis confided in her friend Tanya one night, sitting on a balcony overlooking the city, wine in hand, voice trembling. "He tried to choke me once, not full on, just his hands were around my neck for a second. And then he cried and said he didn't know what came over him." Tanya froze. "Lex, that's not love." "I know," Alexis whispered. I don't want to die in this marriage." It was the first time she said it out loud. The summer of 2020 was blistering, and not just because of the Texas heat. Alexis had started disappearing, not from social media, but from the life she shared with Tom. Friends began noticing the subtle shifts. She traveled more, even for minor influencer events. She hosted virtual skincare workshops at other people's apartments. Her stories always looked joyful. Oat milk lattes, glowing selfies, rooftop sunsets. But there was something hollow behind her eyes in the unfiltered moments. She was glowing on the outside and shrinking on the inside. In late July, she posted a seemingly ordinary photo. Her sitting barefoot on a white bed, oversized shirt falling off one shoulder, cup of coffee in hand. The caption read, "Learning to prioritize peace. Not all love is safe." Her close friends messaged her instantly. "Are you okay? Was that about him? Want to talk? She responded with hearts. A few said, just thinking out loud. But the truth was already seeping through the cracks. She was unraveling, quietly, elegantly, and dangerously alone. The lockdowns of the pandemic hadn't helped. Being trapped in the same space with a volatile man only deepened her fear. Tom was drinking more, lifting less, shouting more, touching less. One night in August, Alexis showed up at Tanya's apartment after midnight with her laptop and an overnight bag. She curled into the couch like a child and whispered, "He said if I ever tried to leave again, he'd make sure no one ever found me." Tanya froze. "Do you believe him?" Alexis stared at the ceiling. "I don't know, but I don't want to find out. She slept there for 3 nights. On the 4th day she went back home, said she had to grab more clothes. But she didn't return that night. The cycle repeated. Threats, distance, sweet apologies, more hope. Her mother Stacy, hundreds of miles away, could sense something off too. Alexis would skip their regular calls. Her voice would tighten whenever Stacy asked about Tom. Then one night, in early September, Stacy pushed harder. "What's wrong, Lex? Just tell me." There was a pause. Then Alexis said softly, "I'm scared, Mom. I don't feel safe." Stacy's heart dropped. "Then come home. We'll help you. You're not stuck." Alexis nodded, but didn't leave. She kept trying to finish influencer contracts, fulfill skincare promo deals, appear normal. Her brand was still her livelihood, and it demanded perfection. She couldn't afford to break down online, and in that digital world she still smiled. But offline she was already making plans to run. She began looking at apartments, texted friends about storage units, bought a new suitcase. Tanya helped her build a spreadsheet titled Rebuilding. It had tabs for job leads, housing, even a list of therapists. "Just hold out until the holidays," Alexis had whispered. "Then I'm gone." But she wouldn't make it to Christmas. The final week of her life began with a party. Thanksgiving 2020. Alexis was invited to a casual Friendsgiving by a fellow influencer. She showed up glowing, tan, lean, smiling. Her hair fell in soft waves. She wore soft beige lipstick, muted gold hoops, and a cinnamon-colored turtleneck crop top that hugged her in all the right ways. Her friends said she looked free. She laughed easily that night, gave skincare tips, took selfies, and drank 2 glasses of rosé, which loosened her tongue just enough to say what had been bubbling under the surface. "I'm leaving him." Everyone froze. Tanya leaned in. "You mean it this time?" Alexis nodded, eyes steady. "Yeah, I found a place. I've got money saved. It's happening." She said she was giving herself 2 more weeks. She just needed to collect a few things, wait until Tom was gone for work, and then vanish. She had even arranged for a moving truck to be on standby. "I'm done performing," she whispered. "I just want to be real again." No one knew those would be her last words to them. The next morning, Friday, she didn't show up to a planned brunch. Tanya called. No answer. Then a text. "Hey girl, just resting. Long night. I'll call later." But the language wasn't quite right. Alexis never used that heart emoji, never said long night without an inside joke. Tanya called again. Still no reply. By midnight, panic had set in. Friends began calling hospitals. Some drove to her apartment. Tom answered the door once, shirtless, annoyed. "She left," he said flatly. "Stormed out last night. We argued. She needed air. They asked where she went," he shrugged. "I figured she was with you guys." By Saturday, Alexis's phone had stopped pinging altogether. Her location was off. Her Instagram story hadn't been updated. Her inbox was dark. That Sunday morning, November 29th, a city worker was driving along Red Haw Lane, a deserted road just outside the Houston city sprawl. He saw something near the bushes, a shape. At first, he thought it was a mannequin. But when he pulled over and walked closer, his breath left his lungs. It was a woman's body, naked, cold, face down, hair matted. There were no tire marks nearby, no drag marks. Her body had been placed there, gently, almost ceremoniously, like someone wanted her to be found. The face was unmistakable. It was Alexis. The morning air was still when detectives arrived at Redhaw Lane. The sun hadn't risen fully yet, just a sliver of amber on the horizon, but the scene was already sealed in yellow tape. Alexis's body was now covered with a white sheet. Photographers snapped every angle. A detective crouched beside her, studying the placement. There were no shoes, no wallet, no ID, no visible injuries, but there was something else, stillness, not just of her body, but of intent. Whoever had placed her here didn't panic. There were no drag marks, no blood trail, no signs of a rush. It was clinical, controlled, almost staged. A whisper passed among the officers. This doesn't feel random. They quickly confirmed her identity. Alexis Sharkey, 26, social media influencer. They looked at her last known location, her apartment, the last person she was with, her husband, Tom Sharkey. They knocked on his door that afternoon. He opened it wearing gym shorts and a hoodie, eyes puffy, voice hoarse. "She ran off," he repeated. "She was always running off when we fought." The detective noted how little he asked. Not how she died, not where she was found. Only, did someone kill her? When they said they didn't know yet, he shrugged. Well, she was messed up lately, depressed, anxious, the influencer life. But her friends told a different story. One by one, they came forward. Tanya, Kendra, Erica each offered texts, voicemails, stories. Alexis had been terrified of Tom. She'd described nights when he'd scream for hours, punch walls inches from her face, rip her phone from her hands mid-post. She had begged friends to stay on the phone with her late at night, told them she was planning to escape. One friend offered a screenshot from just 2 days before her death. It read, "I'm afraid if I leave, he'll kill me." Detectives listened, took notes, quietly sent forensic teams into the Sharkey's apartment. The mattress was stripped, bleach in the bathroom, a smashed phone in the trash, but nothing concrete. No cameras caught Alexis leaving that night, no signs of forced entry, no footage of a body being transported. Tom's car was wiped clean. Then the autopsy report arrived. Despite her pristine exterior, no bruises, no blood. The medical examiner found signs deeper than the skin. Alexis had petechial hemorrhaging in her eyes, red pinpoints from lack of oxygen, bruising beneath her jawline, ligature pressure around the throat. She had been strangled, a quiet, personal kill, and she didn't fight back. No defense wounds, no broken nails, no bruises on her hands, which meant one of two things. She was asleep, or she trusted her killer. The case turned. Detectives brought Tom in again. He was less cooperative this time, shorter answers, no emotion, no questions about Alexis's death. Instead, he deflected, accused them of targeting him, of listening. To her gossiping friends, "I loved that girl," he barked. "I would never hurt her." But the more he talked, the less they believed. He called Alexis unstable, claimed she was using drugs, which toxicology would later prove false, said she talked crazy when she drank, even suggested she might have killed herself despite the medical evidence saying otherwise. Then he vanished, no warning. He left Houston, left the apartment, stopped returning calls. Even his own family didn't know where he went. He'd taken what was left of Alexis's belongings, sold some furniture, and disappeared.
Dominique, HPD revealing today that they obtained an arrest warrant on murder charges for Thomas Sharkey last week. When there was an attempt to serve that warrant last night, it ended with him taking his own life. 11 months after Alexis Sharkey's murder, Houston police investigators concluding today that her husband, Thomas Sharkey, was the only person who had the means, motive,
A Harris
and
County
opportunity to kill
grand
her.
jury delivered an indictment.
Behavior
Thomas
and,
James
conversations with
Sharkey,
him.
charged with the murder of Alexis. Sharkey, by then, he was 1,000 miles away. Detectives traced his cell phone to Fort Myers, Florida. He had been staying with a new woman. She didn't know who he really was, not the charges, not the death, not the headlines. He'd told her his wife died of cancer. On a humid morning in early October, U.S. Marshals surrounded the rented home. They knocked once, no answer, knocked again. Then a sound, a single muted pop. They breached the door and found Tom on the floor, gun still in hand, body limp, blood pooling beside a suitcase packed for another escape. He had shot himself. In the head, there was no final confession, no note made public, no explanation, just silence. The same silence he'd used to manipulate, control, and destroy. Alexis's mother, Stacy, got the call that night. She didn't celebrate. She sobbed, because there was no courtroom, no cross-examination, no verdict, just one more man who killed, then ran from truth. But even in death, Alexis's voice refused to fade. Women across the country reposted her images with messages about emotional abuse, coercive control, hidden suffering. Her DMs, preserved by her mother, were filled with stories from strangers, women who saw themselves in her, who had smiled through pain, posed through fear, and begged for escape. Stacy started speaking at domestic violence events, shared Alexis's story, warned others. She performed joy, Stacy said once, but inside she was screaming, and none of us heard her loud enough until it was too late. They buried her in a soft pink dress, one she once wore in a viral photo shoot where she had smiled into the sun with her eyes closed, as if peace was something she could hold. Her mother chose it not just because it was beautiful, but because it reminded her of who Alexis used to be before the followers, before the fear, before the story became tragedy. The funeral was intimate. No cameras, no press, just family, childhood friends, and a quiet row of women from her influencer circle, all dressed in pale colors like petals at a wake. Stacy stood at the podium and held a framed picture of her daughter. She made strangers feel like friends, she said. But she didn't let her own pain show. We saw her light, but I think we missed her shadow. It was the most honest thing said all day. Alexis Sharkey's Instagram page still lives. Followers continue to comment. Some post heart emojis. Others post justice finally. A few still say, you inspired me to keep going. In death, she became an icon of both beauty and warning. The girl who sold serenity but lived in a cage. Tom Sharkey took her life with his hands and then took his own with a gun. No trial, no justice, just finality. But her story continues to echo in workshops about coercive control, in threads about toxic relationships, in whispered sisterhoods between women who know how it feels to sleep beside someone you fear. Alexis wasn't weak. She was trying to love, to escape, to grow, to glow. But love should never leave you dead on the side of a road. And now, when people see her last posts, her skin bright, her captions soft, her smile just slightly off, they understand what they're really looking at. Not influence, not luxury, a warning, a life spent trying to make pain look like peace.